Hi, this is Christopher James with All Things Branson and Branson Talk, and we are here in April 2019, with brand new mayor here in Branson, Missouri, Mr. Edd Akers. So it's very nice to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you, Christopher.
Nice to meet you. Your name keeps coming up all the time. I just interviewed Brad Thomas from Silver Dollar City. I don't know if you've ever been to Silver Dollar City, but he mentioned that you were an employee there. I always like to learn about people's backgrounds a little bit. So why don't you tell us about where did you grow up, first of all? Did you grow up here in Branson?
Actually born in the back of a general store over on Highway 13. My dad had put in a general store, and during the war years, operated the store. I was born in the back and weighed on the meat scales where they weigh the pork chops. And,
Seriously?
Seriously. And the Dr. Shoemake was the doc from Reed Spring. About a 3.5-hour buggy ride out. He buggy rid out, and I was trouble from the start. I was a breech birth, and so he was there a long time. And then he told Bessie to take him home, and he went home that night in the middle of the night. So
yeah, and a buggy ride.
Yeah, war years. The metal was all being used for other things.
Really?
1942, and so and plus the roads really weren't all that whippy around Branson area in 1942. So Doc Shoemake came out that way, and he knew that his horse would take him home, so he could rest.
Playing it safe, I guess.
Yeah.
So you were born in the area. Now, growing up, you started working at Silver Dollar City when you were really young, right?
We moved here to Branson actually when I was 4 years old, and then I grew up here in the community riding bicycles all over the place. And but I started work at Silver Dollar City when I was 14 years old. I would hitch a ride with Jack Hershen from Al Moldenhauer Station downtown Branson, and go out and spend a day raking leaves or making bumper stickers. We used to put them on with wire, and so you had to cut the wire and untwist it, and then put them through the signs. Really good task.
When you were 14, like you can't do that now. I don't think it. Can you get a job when you're 14 now?
Well, I bet there are kids in town that are 14 and working.
Oh, sure, yeah. Especially if their families have businesses and stuff. But so, how long did you work there?
Actually, my last paycheck was in May of 1970, and I had grown in the organization and enjoyed working there. I was a cave guide originally, obviously, and then worked in the skits and shows in Silver Dollar City, and got to manage the city when Pete Hershen got married for 2 whole weeks. I was the manager of Silver Dollar City back in 1965. Then in 64, I had managed the Shepherd of the Hills play, and so I had contact with both. I played in the play at nighttime and worked at the city during the day, and grew up out there.
So you've done both. You've been on the business side of it, and also you were a performer, you said, in Shepherd of the Hills. And what did you do at Silver Dollar? I'm just curious, as a performer, what...
Well, I did all kinds of street shows. A lot of times I was on the microphone, and we'd announce what was happening. The Hatfields and McCoys were having their family feud, and
is that still going on?
I think they still do bits and pieces of it.
Well, I mean, the Hatfield and McCoy, they just really need to just get together and settle it. It's gone on long enough.
You'd think maybe. They need a mediator of some kind. So, but I played in the different parts. Dirty Dan Diggins was a show that we did. We had the melodramas down by the lakefront. Had barbershop quartets, sang in the barbershop quartet, and did a little bit of everything. Got into kind of managing people and doing scheduling and stuff, and grew up in the organization. I ended my career. I had gone to work for Mary Hershen in 1967 or 66 as a National Crafts Foundation, which was doing the craft festival in the fall. And in that craft festival, I got to invite craftsmen and travel all over the country, meeting specialty crafts people, silver people, leather people, candle makers, all kinds of crafts. And I enjoyed that greatly. But worked up to that. And then in November of 1969, my dad passed away real suddenly here in Branson. He had a general insurance agency. And my brothers and sisters all got together and said, Ed, you'll be the guy. You'd be the logical guy. I'd been made vice president of the corporation. And so I finished up my work in May of 70 and came into Branson and don't regret a day.
Oh, well, that's great. But here we are, 2019, and you decided to run for mayor, and you had you had success, obviously. So what made you decide that you wanted to take this on? Because I know from previous conversations, it's not a very high-paying job. And it can be a somewhat stressful job. So you obviously didn't do it for the money. So what made you decide that you wanted to run for mayor?
Well, I've had a few people question my sanity.
I get it.
But my retirement plan wasn't originally the mayor of Branson, but I got involved with our community, and I've seen our community evolve and change. And I have all this background and experience working in the hospital board, the school system, Taney County Planning and Zoning, this background that I wanted to help. And so I decided to run for mayor based on if you were going to go out and hire a mayor, put a job description out there, what you'd want a mayor to have, the experience, that I might have been able to convince a few folks that I had the experience.
Right.
And it seemed to work.
It did work.
Yeah.
Now, I want to address something from the campaign. I mean, obviously, you were successful in the campaign, but I was surprised at the low numbers of people that actually came out to vote. And I have to admit, we had some people comment on our Facebook pages that it was such a low turnout, given that our city is so much into our patriotism and our rights and our freedoms. I mean, did you find that disappointing? I mean, obviously not disappointing in the fact that you won, but it was a relatively low number of people that turned out to vote. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I actually was hoping for a lot more people to turn out. But you have to realize the people who can vote is pretty limited in the city limits. There are certain areas of the city where there's residential areas, and I've known a lot of people as I've grown up here, and so I feel like I had a lot of support from the local residents that could vote. But it is disappointing to see people not taking advantage of their opportunity to vote and do so. There weren't any huge burning issues that people were voting for, but I'm just pleased that I got enough folks to hear that, I really want the job, I'm going to do the job. And this may sound odd to you, but I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be.
So what are some of the changes you've seen over the years that you're really proud of in Branson?
I think in general there's been an attitude of folks coming into the community that want to become part of the community, really get enmeshed in the community. And then you have some people that come in and just want to take money out of the community. And but those folks that have come in and then finally realize, and I've seen turnarounds. I've seen people that came in first for the money because they saw all these people and then realized that it's a part of a community that if everyone does well, if everyone works together, we can all do well. The pie of monies, the income, is only so big. And so that's now being split smaller slices. It's a time for us to look into the future and say, hey, what can we do to grow the income stream? What can we do to grow the people that come here, the unique things that need to happen to bring people here? And we've always had the uniqueness of the music show industry, and it's a very powerful industry. But if people that are interested in baseball and come down here to the ballparks of America and suddenly they see there's some shows that they hadn't known about before and they go see a show, the shows benefit. So there's a lot of discussion needs to be had. The city helped be involved with the chamber, I think, to do an entertainment study. And that study's going to be coming out in the near future. I'm not exactly sure when, but I'll be anxious to see what the recommendations are in regard to it. I'm very open about things that I not necessarily have an opinion on, but see as more factual information. And the truth is we don't have enough people going to shows to support the number of shows we have. That's a valid comment. And so if we're going to grow that pie, we've got to find ways to either help bring them in through shows or help bring them in through other attractions that attract a unique clientele that suddenly learn we have shows here and an opportunity to
like the baseball part that you mentioned. I mean, that's helped a lot.
Sight and Sound's one that, I could designate to say that's brought new people to town.
Right.
And they realize there's other stuff here. So it's not an easy it's complex in regard to how it works together, but you're going to need some people with a little bit of vision to look down the road and see that in the long term, we've got to make some changes now to benefit the future of Branson.
Right, because everything's so intertwined. We get a lot of comments from viewers that, we're getting too many attraction type things, too many museums, too many zip lines, too many. But to me, those bring in people that don't want to sit all day and watch shows all day. So they come in maybe to go to the museum and then catch a show at night. And so I think they all work together. I don't think it's a bad thing. And also now we appeal to a wider spectrum of people. Because I know when I first came here, Silver Dollar City was here, Whitewater. I've been here going on 20 years. And now I've noticed there's a lot more things for all kinds of ages to do here. And I think that's a good thing. And we get a lot of people that will mention, well, now you're trying to attract the demographic of the young audiences, young families. And I always point out that most of the people we talk to started coming to Branson when they were kids. Like they came with their parents. They just forget that. They forget that. But times do change. So I think some of the music is starting to change that they perform. And they also have to realize that the people that are retired now were in high school in the 60s or so. So the music needs to change some as well. But I think, there's a lot of people, as you were saying, that come into town and make investments. But this year we're highlighting individuals that have made investments in town. We've interviewed Clay Cooper, that has put a lot of time and money into that. Mike Patrick is also at the Grand Country. They've done a lot of things. And so we're really focusing on these people that invest their time and money in this town. And because there's so many people that have been here for so long, and a lot of people say, well, we need the big names. We need the big names to come in. And if there was the possibility of them making the money, they would be here, right? It's just business.
Well, my whole concept is I'm transparent. I'm looking at the whole situation. You got to have some intelligent discussion and make good decisions. But you got to make decisions at some point in time. You can't just talk about it all the time. And so I see the people, and the people you mentioned who have invested, they're very aware that they've got to be unique and attract people to themselves. I'm really pleased because we've got some really quality people that own business here in the community and that make their livelihood here in the community, but they've got to come to a table. We've got to get them to the table to help make a plan. Years ago I talked about with another group. I talked about, well, is it time for Branson to consider being the Broadway of the Midwest? Is it time for the plays to come in and start drawing people also besides the music? Most folks that come have certain music taste. They want to come for something specific. But what happens, I'm seeing, are people that come here like for the archery tournament a couple weekends ago. I think most of those people were blown away by all the availability of shows and entertainment that we had on the strip and the area. I think it all has to work together. I think there is a good way for it to work together, to recognize that everyone brings something unique to the table and that we just need to make sure and get people here.
Right.
And once we get people here, then they can learn, and then that word of mouth that used to really be Branson's benefit, they take it home and share about what great time they had. And two, with the international things going on, Johnny Morris bringing in the folks to the golf tournament that he has, and then other attractions there. We're seeing a whole new demographic of people coming to the area. And I think there's an area, it's my opinion, and it's an area looking to the future, is that we really haven't pushed retirement here in the area. We've never really said, hey, this is a great place to retire. It's happened because people discovered it on their own and found it. We've got some retirement information at the chamber and so on, but it's never been a focus. That area and a couple other areas that are tied to tourism may be where there's room for a second pie that doesn't slice that bigger pie thinner. It's its own pie and brings additional people. The retirement industry brings capital. People have money because they're retired. It brings in some labor force because a lot of times they want to do something while they're here besides play golf and fish all the time. And for years, the theaters have said the best employees they have are the folks that are retired because they show up on time and they work their time frame and then they do their thing.
Sure.
So the labor force issues of trying to make sure we have ways of also tying in labor force to bring people, and then the transportation system is the last thing. I saw a need for it 20 years or more ago in planning and zoning, talking about an outer road, much like Kansas City has an outer road that goes around it.
Like a bypass sort of thing?
Yeah. Well, not really a bypass, but access road. In Kansas City, if you want to go someplace in Kansas City else, you'll take the outer road and then come back into the place you want to go. The same could be true here in the area. Very expensive. Long term, I may never see it in my lifetime, but can you imagine an outer road that would take off to the eastern part of the county where there's land that actually has soil and you can build on, it doesn't have rock, and then Kirbyville area, and then on around toward the airport and Johnny Morris's property, and hook back into the end of the high road now?
Right.
That access that gives places for people to have residences, be able to get to work by transportation system, and just benefit and grow the whole area. But it's got to happen from starting now, and we've got to get buy-in from all the government agencies, counties, cities, and so on to say, hey, the future economic growth of this area is dependent on us being able to have a good workforce, a healthy workforce, being able to have transportation system for people to get around, and being able to have those things that actually draw people, those visitors that we want to love on and show them how friendly we are to this area.
Right. So, okay, all the business stuff aside, we always get that out of the way.
Yeah.
So what do you like to do here in this town? Do you go to a lot of shows? Do you go out to Silver Dollar very often?
We go in binges. We'll decide, well, we're going to go see shows, this week. My wife and I, we have all 3 of our children here and 6 grandkids, and so we spend a lot of our time soccer games and baseball practice and things like that, which is I'm so blessed.
Yeah, because I saw you throwing out the first pitch. Was that yesterday?
Yes, it was. Yeah, I didn't do a very good job. My sinker sank too quickly.
Were you a baseball player growing up?
I was, and I was a pitcher. And but the years have worn.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed that. That was really an honor. Hollister Chamber of Commerce asked me a couple of years ago if I'd come in just to be there and kind of help them with the history and things and going on in the area. And I had a great time. I mean, just really enjoyed working with Todd Ashelman and now the current administration's working over there. But they invited me to come up, and little did I know that I was going to be throwing out the first pitch.
So your excuse is you didn't warm up, right?
That's right.
If they had given you a notice, you got to stretch.
I could have had my grandson who could throw it all the way to home plate to be with.
Oh, it didn't make it to home plate?
Well, I did make it to home plate, but on the bounce.
Oh, okay.
But yes, it's this area I've grown up in. I enjoy, and much more so as I've gotten older, and I know this is a thing for people getting older, but I really enjoy the springtime, and I enjoy the summer, and I enjoy the fall, and I enjoy the winter. They're all uniquely different.
Yeah.
And there's beauty in every one of them. And I'm learning to enjoy the beauty of each. We have some property out on Bull Creek, and I go out there and take my lawn chair right in the middle of the creek and let the minnows chew on the hair on my leg, and sit there in the creek with my boys, listen to a Cardinal ball game.
That's fine.
So, yeah, and but the other thing at the creek have a lot of baptisms done there, and so I get to see folks that come out of that water looking so new and fresh.
And they look over and see you with minnows.
I'm not out there with them. I'm watching from the shore.
But that would be a little weird. Just sit there in your chair.
But the old man of the creek.
Like, who is that? We just ignore him.
But this area has so many things to offer. I love the museum. I like to have a chance to talk about the area. As you can tell, I don't like to talk. But I have a lot of oral history, and I've done that several times. I did it on the showboat one time for the Legacy Group, and I spoke to the standing room only crowd. Just because
they took all the chairs out.
But people like to hear about this area.
They do, and Karen and I used to talk all the time because in the off season I travel a lot, and I do a little thing because a lot of people that I run into when I get introduced performing in LA, or I was in Chicago this past year, in Mexico, they'll introduce me as doing 400 and some shows a year in Branson, Missouri. You'd be surprised how many people come up and say, Richard Branson? Is it Richard Branson? No. What is a Branson, Missouri? They just don't know in LA and stuff. And so I explained, I said, well, we have like 100 shows. They're like, 100? Yeah. And I start pulling up pictures on the phone. And so on cruise ships and stuff, I'll do a little talk about Branson for people after the show. If you want to learn more about Branson, stick around. I tell them about Silver Dollar City and Marble Cave, and you know a lot more about it than I do. And just educating the people as to what it is. And because there are a lot of people, like you were saying, drawing the people in is the problem, because there are a lot of people that have no idea. No idea, just everything. I started explaining about the lakes, how we have all the lakes and the fishing and the dam.
And now the golf.
And the golf. Oh. And I'm sure you're excited. Justin Timberlake coming.
Well, I know who he is.
That's good. That's a start.
I'm sure my grandkids know a lot better than I do.
Yeah. Are you a golfer?
I am. I haven't golfed as much recently. I had some back issues, but I love golf, love to watch golf. And some of these guys that come in are my heroes. You know, they come into the legends of golf. So.
Oh, I wish I could do it. I have a couple condos over at Point Royale, right on the golf course, and we sell them as right on the golf course. And my wife says, all the years we've owned those, you've never golfed. Yeah. Because I never have the time. Yeah. Golf takes a long time to do. But we have all the lakes, we have all the shopping. I think the Branson Landing is amazing. And with everything they're doing and the concerts and all of that stuff. And so as soon as I start explaining this stuff, people are dumbfounded. Yeah. They're like, this exists. Where is it again? Yeah. Missouri? Yeah. And so it's very, very funny to me.
You know, to hear the comments from the people out at the golf tournament that didn't realize this part of the world existed. And they're just in awe. The view, obviously, from the top of the rock, the golf courses themselves. Mr. Morris is really, it's something special. Yeah. It's going to be even more in the future.
He's got a lot of potential. He's going somewhere someday.
Yeah. Let me share. You mentioned something, and I'd like to talk about this. Michael London, several years ago, really pushed 100 shows in the community, and at the time, I think that was the thing to do. That was what was going on. But I think now, and this is just, again, thinking through and looking at the economics, if you had 60 shows rather than 100 shows, would the 60 do better? And the logical answer is yes. Do you need 100 shows now? That was promotional more, and it really effective and very good. But now I think we need to be getting to some way, and one of the candidates for city council, Marshall Howden, I did it wrong. Marshall Howden talked a lot about that. That was his primarily emphasis. The shows, we just need to get that information and get together. And it may be that, maybe 60 shows is the ideal size. Maybe that's the way that the pie then can be a little bigger for people to be able to make a living. But I hate to see people come here and spend their life savings, do their dream, and then have issues and have to go out of business.
The shows fail. Yeah.
And so I'm into helping people get done what they'd like to get done. Yeah,
because so many people think it's going to be easy, and they can just come into town. And this is one of the focuses we always have with people that run their own shows, is that it's a 5-year plan, at least. And so even big names, Willie Nelson, Wayne Newton, all these people have come into town. It just didn't work out for them, And one misconception people have about the mayor, it seems like always, and just the city in general, is you guys don't have control over it. You can't tell a show to close. You can't open a show. The city doesn't control that sort of thing. Because a lot of people say, well, we need to start getting rid of this type of business or that, but you can't really do that. So
no.
It's capitalism.
I think a lot of people have a misconception in general about the mayor. The mayor really only breaks a tie vote.
Yeah.
The folks who really do the voting and have the power base are the older people. And now I do believe the mayor has a very powerful voice in helping make sure they get all the information they need to be able to make good quality decisions. Make sure that they have what they need to be able to represent their wards. We have a group of dedicated council people. Again, they're not paid either. But I have no allegiance or any ties to anyone because I'm at a point in my life where this is my retirement plan, and so it's unique and unusual. But what I hope to bring is also bring some interest from people who are at the retirement age, who only golf and fish so much that they might have a little extra time to come in and serve the city and help on committees, help on areas to help, and they have expertise and knowledge and background and all the stuff. But that would bring a lot of older people here to town, but that's not all bad. There's some wisdom in some older people around, and other societies revere their older people.
Yeah,
And,
I lived in China for a while, and it's completely
yes.
different in Asia. I mean, yes, those are the most respected people by
Yes.
far, by
Yes.
far. And I do too. I respect them unless I'm trying to get to work.
Now you got into meddling.
Now what?
You got into meddling.
I used to do these Branson laws just as a joke, where if you're behind an Oldsmobile or a Cadillac and you can't see the top of somebody's head, you're going to be late to something. That sort of thing.
Well, we do have folks that are here just awesome, and I had a 90-year-old father-in-law who loved to drive.
My great-grandmother drove until she was 98 years old.
But finally, we were able to get him to stop doing that. But I think the important thing is that the people in this community can all work together.
Right.
And whether they're older folks or younger folks, there's a common ground. There's a common area. And there's no old Branson, new Branson. It's Branson trying to serve. But we've kind of gone away in some cases of the friendliness that really brought people here originally. The smiles, the waitress at the restaurant who can tell you about the latest show and all that. There's a lot of things that I think we need to kind of help encourage to bring back.
Right.
Is educating the workforce about what's available in the community. And again, that's a lot of discussion.
It's a great idea, because then you get the word of mouth going.
And that's the best. When the maid at one of the motels is asked by a visitor, well, what show do you like, or what show is best to you? And then, I never get to go to a show. All I do is work.
Yeah.
We've got to have a better way. And then letting people turn left, just let them turn left, or letting people in, in the line of traffic. Just the old Ozark hillbilly friendliness, that's there. Those kind of things will make Branson really viable in the long run.
Well, we always end all of our interviews by telling everybody to be nice to each other, right? Just everybody get along, do something nice for someone. And this has been a great talk. I really appreciate you giving us your time.
Yeah.
And I know you're just getting settled in. You got this basically your work area.
Well, I have a desk eventually coming, but
eventually.
And we're making one office into two offices is what's happening.
Oh, I see.
And we got a new city administrator coming eventually, and so that's going to be his. I'll have my thumb right on him. See right.
Well, it was great talking to you. It was very nice meeting you. Thank you very much, Ed, for taking the time to talk with us. I'm Christopher James with All Things Branson. Be sure to follow us online. Comment down below as to who we should interview next. And as always, be nice to each other. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Christopher. You betcha.
Thank you. That was a lot of fun.